Now then, everybody, and welcome to the Wedding Mavericks podcast, a podcast for wedding videographers and photographers where we discuss all aspects of running a business, creating technical knowledge and skills, and pushing your creativity. Got that slightly wrong because I'm not reading it from a script. This morning, we are starting to record this on the first day of a 4-day wedding stretch. So the title of this will be something along the lines of behind the scenes of multi-day wedding shoots. Obviously, this is not one wedding that's multi-day. This is a set of different weddings.
This is 4 different weddings in 4 days.
We just need a funeral and we've got the title of a film. So we decided that partly because we haven't really got time to record a podcast at home at the moment, and that we were on the road, and because we have an electric car, so we charge the car. We have to charge the car on the journey anyway. We thought it was a good idea to sort of do it on the road. We didn't want to record in the car like we did a few weeks ago because the audio quality was so bad, so we thought we'd do it with the proper mics, but with our little destination setup, and do it while we were parked up. So Lindsay's going to pass me my coffee now because I've left it over there and I don't want it to go cold.
Don't spill it.
Don't spill it.
No pressure.
So, what I thought we'd do is we'd talk through kind of the practical considerations of doing more than one wedding in a row. So that if you're in that situation and you're thinking, I need to kind of plan and prepare for this, what sort of things do you want to consider, basically? So talk through the practicalities of how we've planned for that, and then kind of day by day, hopefully, unless things don't go very well, we'll record a little bit every day, won't we?
Yeah.
It's like kind of a running update, and not just the practicalities, but how we're sort of feeling, because, you know, I'd say the average wedding day for us, including the sort of travel, because we'll be travelling, you know, between 1 and 3 hours every side of the wedding. So in the morning to get there and then coming back, we are staying places as well, but still where we're staying is, you know, an hour or two away from each place. So, you know, they're going to be like 15 plus 16 plus hour days potentially. Yeah. So quite tiring, especially when you're on your feet all day and you're having to like constantly think about doing your job. It's not like you can just sit at a desk and you take regular breaks and stuff. It's pretty intense, as you'll know if you shoot weddings. So, yeah, we just thought we'd give you a little bit of a, you know, the kind of physical, mental, emotional things that you, if you've never been in this situation, that you're potentially going to go through, so you can prepare for them.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, so quick bit of background. By the way, we're going to be recording one each day, so this is going to look different to the later on in the episode because we'll be in a different location, probably wearing different clothes and stuff. Yeah. Background for this: so these weddings, there's 4 weddings in a row. We're starting on the Thursday. It's the Jubilee weekend, so this is a thing in the UK. It depends where you're listening from, whether you'll understand what that is. But basically, the Queen's been in power for 70 years. So it's a big deal, and everyone's getting a bit excited about it. Big media coverage and all that. It's probably going to be low. It's like extra days off from work for people. Loads of people travelling to go on holiday and having celebrations and stuff. So it's a bit of
street parties.
Lots of street parties. It's a bit of a crazy weekend to be doing this because we don't actually know how it's going to affect traffic and how it's going to affect how busy places are. So we might have to contend with some chaos, which might interfere with things a little bit. But we'll see how it goes. So, Jubilee weekend, and we've got 4 weddings. We've got wedding Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The first one that we're at today, we're up in the Lakes, or Cumbria, as it's known in the UK, which is sort of north. It's almost as we can't get much further north at the moment than if we go another sort of 20 miles, we're in Scotland. So basically, North Lakes, it's lovely. It's a great day, sunny. You do get some mixed weather up here. And then the next few days we're at different venues, but they're all over different parts of the north of England. So we stayed in a hotel last night just so that we were in a good spot for getting here, because otherwise it'd be about a 2.5 hour drive from our house, which isn't too bad, but the concern is that
just that we might
hit some traffic.
Coming up part of a major motorway, and just like we've said, it's half term as it is anyway, so people are travelling for sort of holiday reasons, plus the Jubilee, so we just didn't want to kind of risk.
Yeah, well, there's a motorway called the M62 in the north of England, and it's renowned for stuff going horribly wrong on it, like trucks spilling the loads or crashing and basically blocking the entire motorway. And when that happens, there isn't really other routes or a way to get off the motorway for a long way, because it's basically the highest motorway in the country, so it goes over some mountains. And anyway, it's basically an absolute nightmare if it gets blocked, and you could be stuck on it for hours. So because we have to come over there to get to this side of the country, we didn't want to risk it. So that's basically the reason for staying in the hotel last night. We're going to stay in the same hotel tonight, which is on the west of the country, which will kind of put us in a good place for then getting to the wedding that's in the Yorkshire Dales tomorrow, and then we'll go home, and then we'll sleep in his own beds, and then we'll go to the wedding that's in North Yorkshire on the North York Moors, and then we'll the last wedding is up in County Durham, which is even further north. So practicalities of stuff. The first thing you've got to kind of we'll mention is childcare, basically. So we've got 2 young kids, and if you've got kids, you'll have the same issues as what we do, which is, what do you do if you both shoot weddings? And it's not like there are holiday clubs or out-of-school clubs that kind of help you with this sort of job. So we're very fortunate that we've got my mum, and she's going to help us she helps us with childcare. So because of that, we can do this. And if we didn't have that, I don't know what we'd do.
No, we wouldn't. We certainly won't be able to do it together as we do. And obviously circumstances were different last year, but you had moved to kind of a model of there just being yourself that did the weddings, and it's back to kind of being both of us going forward. But it's a grueler this week for your mum, bless her, isn't it?
Yeah, usually we just sort of they're there for a night or two.
Yeah.
This week they're there for sort of 3 or 4 nights.
3 nights, yeah.
And so my mum will be tired by the end of that, but we do pay her. That's how we basically have managed to be able to run our business, and rely on being able to actually not worry about the childcare aspect. So, if an inquiry comes in and it requires us both, we can still do it, because we just have an agreement with my mum that we pay her every month like a salary, and she helps us with different aspects of the business, but that's one of the main things, is that she helps us be able to look after the kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something to mention, because people listening probably know we've got kids and probably thinking, what do you do? How do you manage this? Have you put the kids in a boot? And the second thing I thought was worth mentioning was mindset. Because actually taking on 4 weddings it's not a plan. This is not something that we feel particularly cool about. It's out of necessity. 2 of these are postponements, and 2 of these are new weddings. And normally we wouldn't want to take on 4 weddings in a row at all. Like, we don't even like taking on 2 weddings in a row these days. But obviously with the pandemic and everything, it's kind of taken things out of our control a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
we can't obviously let couples down, and also because have like been paid for some of these weddings, in order to be able to earn money and still like not let anybody else down, we needed to be flexible about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we've just gone for it, and we've just done these 4 stretch weddings. But certainly looking forward, I think 4 is a little bit much.
Definitely, yeah. And you know, and just it's on our minds as well that you know with the kids. I mean, our eldest daughter, I mean, youngest couldn't wait to get me out the door yesterday. She was excited for sleepovers at Nanny Mary's, but you know, it's hard going on them when, and particularly the eldest, who's 11 now. You know, she's realised that we're away for 3 nights, and it, you know, it's as they're getting older that it hits them a little bit harder that we're, you know, we do try to kind of,
especially at school holidays,
and especially in the school holidays, and we do try to kind of, you know, have conversations with her about the balance of it. You know, I mean, we're so fortunate that because we do this for a living, on the side of, you know, we're able to take them to school, pick them up every day. Most nights we have tea all together. The weekends that we're not doing weddings, we have the weekends together, and you know, there's so much more flexibility in it, and we wouldn't change that aspect of it, because it's what we're left working in the police for, to try to get a much better balance with family. But then I guess, you know, it can feel quite impactive because they then get used to that routine with us of always kind of having us around, and we get used to it as well. So then
absolutely,
something like this, you know, there's the impact is, it feels a bit bigger for us all, and certainly for them. Yeah, so that, you know, that plays on your mind, that can play on your mind as well when you're away and doing these for a few days.
So yeah, with the mindset thing, I think it's just a case of you've got to get yourself in a place of, yeah, it's going to be long days, yeah, it's going to be hard, yeah, there's going to be some compromise in terms of like family and things like that. But then I think the way that we balance it out is, like Lindsay said, we used to work a job where we would have spent less time together as a family and everything. And I think the way that we get through like a 4-day stretch or whatever is we think, right, we could be doing a lot worse things. We could be spending a lot less time with the kids.
Yeah.
In like other employment like we had previously. And we did work with a photographer a couple of weeks back who said he did 220 weddings a year. So actually, and I think he said he'd just done 8 on the bounce. So 4 on the bounce is nothing, is it? Yeah. And he did that week in, week out apparently.
Yeah. No editing. That was his. He just shoots and then outsources all of his editing. So that's how he explained that he manages that many a year.
But still, because we were on his way up here, and I was like, "Ooh, we've got 4 on the bounce," and like, you know, how are you gonna make sure you've got all the right information in your head? Like, just even remembering couples' names and stuff, is hard when you get to that.
That was the thing, because I was kind of like, we were talking about just doing like a little social post or something, and I was just going through the couples' names for the 4 days in my head.
Yeah.
And it was just that thing of, right, if you're going to do it, just make sure you don't mess that up and get anybody's name wrong or anything like that. And then reading the questionnaires, certainly for today, I'm not looking at the other ones. I'm just focusing on today. So
that's a practical tip, is like have them organised, have all your... This is one of the things I was going to sort of add on the list to talk about anyway, but it was like, have all the information ready. We print the questionnaires out, not because we're not environment friendly and stuff, but because you never know when you're not going to be able to get the internet and you're not going to be able to access information on your phone, or what if your phone dies or something. So just having that backup of printing those things out and having any notes you've written on it. And we obviously ask them plenty of information, and on there we've got the locations, we've got the times, and we've got people's names and things, and then we don't need much else other than that, but just to have that information ready. But you're right, it's like you need to kind of focus on that day, and then Once that day is done, you can move on to the next one, because you could really mess yourself up if you're trying to think about multiple days and the timings for them. And that's what I was saying, wasn't it? I was like,
That's right.
normally you're just like, I know what time everything is without even looking at the questionnaire, because I know, but because you're thinking about 4 different weddings here.
Well, that's it. And for civil ceremonies, generally, the majority of the time it's a 2:00 start. Sometimes you'll get midday, but I can't remember the last time there was a 1:00 ceremony. And we were just talking about it, and you were like, okay, yep, standard civil ceremony sort of set up. And I was like, no, it's a 1:00.
Yeah, because a lot of them have been 2 for the last thing, 2 or 12.
Yeah, that's it. So just not I guess not getting complacent, and just being thorough with your detail. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to sort of keep in mind the information that's the spread of however many days that you might be doing it. Just keep focused on that one day at a time.
Yeah, and another thing on the kind of schedule type thing is check your routes and everything. We've obviously planned stuff, and we've booked some hotels when we've needed them and stuff, and I'm aware of the routes. And because we've got an electric car, we kind of know that where we're going to charge the car. We've looked setting off. I looked in the middle of the week where we would do that. But just have your check your routes, check how long it's going to take places. You never know when there's going to be a traffic issue, which might not be an accident or something. It might be something there's a bridge that's been rebuilt, or motorway's closed, whatever, and it might really mess you up. You might think, I know it's a 2-hour drive. It might turn into a 3-hour drive, and you didn't even know. And it's just worth, like, I put into the sat nav ahead of time, and I just check if it's rerouting or anything like that. It's just good to know. And then you're not stressing about it on the days. The last thing I'll do when we finish today is I'll put the sat nav in for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not going to be accurate, because we're not going to be travelling through in the night. It's going to be in the morning, but at least it'll give me an idea of how long it's going to take.
Yeah. And at least you'll know in kind of advance, because it will show up whether there's any sort of roadworks that are on there. Obviously you don't know spontaneous incidents you can't possibly plan for, but any kind of diversions or anything like that are set up that might mean that your journey is going to take a little bit longer. You'll know that in advance.
Yep, cool. So other preparation stuff that's quite practical and might seem quite obvious, but it's just worth thinking about this. So batteries, how are you going to charge them on the road? Obviously we've already, in the last episode, I talked about equipment and was kind of packing the bags for this trip, and that's something you're going to do for every wedding, so there's going to be no difference there. But with this, you have to think about, if you're staying at hotels or you're not going to be going home and having all your stuff at home, you've got to remember that you're going to need to charge those batteries, or you're going to need enough batteries to last you. And then you need to think about things like SD cards. How are you going to download your footage? Have you got enough SD cards to just take some SD cards in and out? So for us, the way we deal with that is we have like a kind of battery charging station, if you like, that we bring with us. It's one that we use in the office, but then we can bring it with us, and just it's all intact. I haven't got it with us, otherwise I'd show it on camera, but it's back at the hotel, so that we'll be able to charge those batteries back tonight. It's just a little box that's got all the chargers in. You literally just plug one extension cable in, and everything we can charge 10 Sony camera batteries at a time. If we didn't have that, it'd be stressful. It really would. We can just pop them all out, pop them all in, charges overnight. But if we didn't have that, it'd be stressful trying to. I've seen people at weddings trying to charge batteries in between speeches and stuff. I couldn't do with that. It'd do my head in. And it's the same thing with the SD cards. So in this little box, there's loads of cables. There's like hard drives, and we've got a card reader and everything. And so what we'll do is we'll download the wedding up to the speeches during the kind of meal, and then we'll finish downloading it later on tonight when we get back to the hotel, and then we'll back it up. So there'll be 2 copies at least of that wedding on 2 different drives, and then we'll format the cards for tomorrow. Some people might not want to do that. Some people might want to have enough cards so they can just take the cards out and then save them and download them later. The problem is the cards we're using, even though they could be a lot more expensive, they're like 75 quid each, and if you've got 2 in the camera, like 3 cameras running or 4 cameras running, that's going to be like 500 to £1,000 worth of memory cards that you're going to have to buy to be able to do that on multiple days. I don't see that as a good idea. I'd rather download the footage, and then I know it's backed up anyway.
Well.
Yeah, it's off. You know, I haven't got little memory cards to like lose. I just know it's on some drives, and it's on 2 drives in 2 different places. You could keep those separately. You could keep one in the car. You could keep one in your bag, just so that there's, that you kind of got that redundancy in case something gets pinched or all like that. But that's the practicalities of that. We might show that process later on tonight if we do a little update then. Your equipment, again, just make sure everything's ready to go, because there's nothing, you're basically going to be using it every day for 4 days, so you just need to know it's ready and all sorted. And then the other thing would be like clothing and refreshments. What have you forgotten, Lindsay?
There's always something that I do forget. It's always toiletry based as well. I've forgotten toothpaste previously and things like that. So I forgot my razor.
It could be worse. At least your legs out. You're not getting your legs out today. Got trousers on.
Yeah.
Not going to be a hairy Mary.
Yeah.
But
we've just been to the services as well.
Yeah.
TV services, lovely, and this place is really renowned in the area because it thrives on the local produce that it buys, and how ethically things are sourced around here to be able to sell. No razors though.
They don't need razors around here. You should go hardcore. Use a piece of slate or something.
Yeah, some trousers today.
Yeah. So I remember one time when we were on like a 2-day one, and I forgot my shoes, but on the first night, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" And I just had my like white and multicolored trainers, and I had to go and find a supermarket that morning and buy some shoes. So shit like that does happen, and so you just need to try and to lower your stress levels. You don't need that extra stress on the morning of a wedding, so just to lower your stress levels, you just need to be methodical in these things. That's what I've found anyway.
Bring a spare if you can.
Yeah, I have about 5 pairs of trousers with me, just in case. You never know, like you spill something, and you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. Your wardrobe's like Simon Cowell's wardrobe, isn't it? 5 pairs of the same types of and colour of jeans and t-shirts. And
look, if you just keep it simple, all right, you don't have anything to think about. You can think about things like cameras and batteries. Anyway, we've got to get to this wedding now, so car's charged up and we are going to hit the road, but we might do a little update later or maybe tomorrow.
We'll see you soon.
So this is kind of the next instalment update type thing. It is 11:30, so 11:30 p.m. in the evening at night time, after the first wedding. We just got into the hotel. We've just set everything, charging, downloading and stuff like that. So it's what time did we leave the hotel? Was it about 8, half 8?
We left about 8:15 this morning. Yeah.
So yeah, what 30? I don't even know.
15 hours.
15.
No,
yeah.
14. Yeah. 15 hours.
We'll call it roughly 15 hours ago since we left. Which, that's pretty average, I would say, like in terms of the length of the day. Mm-hmm. Obviously, because if we were driving home, it would have been a longer day, but we're probably about an hour to an hour and a half nearer to where we were than if we'd driven home. So, yeah. What do you make of today then? What do you think? Like it was a lovely venue, Eden Barn up in the Lake District. And it was a lovely day, bit mixed weather. We've had some rain, we've had some sunshine.
But we were fortunate at the start of the day, up until I think I know the first bit of rain.
Wasn't until later on, was it?
Yeah,
but
wasn't until tea time. Yeah.
Everything kind of worked out, really.
Managed to get back out with them in the evening, didn't we?
Yeah,
and it was dry and
it's pretty typical for the UK, I would say, that type of weather,
and in
especially in that part of the UK.
The lakes, yeah.
So I feel okay. You do one wedding, don't you? You do one wedding day and it's long, and you might wake up the next day with the wedding hangover if you haven't had enough fluids and you haven't had enough to eat, and you've been on your feet all day and stuff. You feel quite fatigued, but I feel okay. I think if we get a decent night's sleep, hopefully. I slept like a baby last night, I think, because I've been sleeping all week, like proper.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there was a bit of a strange one, wasn't it? Because the couple fell out. It's the first for us, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It was a bit of an unusual one. I mean, we're working with a great photographer today that we've got a really good working relationship with, and he has done a wedding at that location before, so was really positive about it, and about the the venue owners and the staff and the general sort of whole experience. And I think the couple weren't overly sort of into having the photos and directly being filmed and things like that, but that didn't kind of, up until the end of the speeches, that didn't in any way detract from the fact that it was a lovely day up to that point. Everyone in high spirits. The groom was very animated and
a character.
Quite happy. Yeah, quite a character. And then just unfortunately some of the things that were said in the speeches really upset the bride, so that just we didn't see that coming, any of us. That
no, and then we didn't see them for a couple of hours. So
and then it started raining, everybody was in the barn.
Yeah, who knew what was going to happen? But it all seemed to sort itself out in the end, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then we got out for some sort of evening portrait-y type stuff, and a first dance. It all basically ended up happening just as a normal any wedding would. So that one down, 3 to go. We're going to go to bed soon, but we're just sort of setting everything, charging and downloading, and then going to back up, and I'll briefly talk about that in a second. And then we've got the questionnaire just to glance through for tomorrow's, so we know what time we need to be there and what time we need to set the alarms for, and just familiarise ourselves with that, because if you're doing more than one, you really do need to kind of try to look at that day and then look at the next day. As long as you know roughly what time you've got to be at the venue, that's about all you really need to know about it until you've finished the previous one. What do you think?
And you've had contact, you've just exchanged messages with the groom tonight, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just to again, just kind of managing their expectations and checking that everybody's on the same page in terms of time of arrival, and anything. He'd highlighted something that he wanted to make sure that we got footage of tomorrow, and it's worth mentioning as well that we were just filming there today, the wedding today, and tomorrow we're doing film and photo.
Yeah, so
wedding.
So it's almost. I mean, it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter, does it? But we just need to be slightly more organised with the logistics, because whereas video, usually the photographer is going to have helped shape the timeline a bit, and we just work with that, because there's nothing really we need to do in terms of like organising group shots or making sure there's time for this and time for that. Whereas tomorrow, because we're doing the photo as well, we're kind of trying to help them with the timeline as well, and the logistics. So interesting one, because today's venue, there's not many venues we haven't done in the north of England, and then today's we hadn't done before, tomorrow's we haven't done before, and then the one on Sunday we haven't done before. So it's good to have those new experiences.
It is. It's good. I think it's good for us to start thinking about tomorrow, in the sense that, like you've just been saying, about kind of thinking of logistics and things like that. But I guess a bit of a learning point for us, and something that we're consciously trying to be aware of when we go from just shooting the video to doing the film and photo at weddings. We were talking about the doc edit today, the longer film, and that when there's two of us just focused on the film, that's we're kind of,
we're just shooting loads and loads of footage, aren't we?
Yeah, lots and lots of stuff to sort of be able to incorporate into that. and we've noticed just at times where we're doing the film and the photo, because there's now kind of a dual responsibility, if you like, it's been noticeable.
Sometimes you can get a little bit carried away doing the photo side and not get as many video clips of things. So you get lots of nice candid photos, but you don't get as many of the candid video clips that kind of pad out the doc edits, you know, and sort of show more of people enjoying the day. So you still get all the key bits, but we just need to make sure that we try to film as much as we would if we were just filming the wedding, which is potentially a little bit difficult to do because you're trying to do more in less time or whatever. But yeah. So
see how it goes.
So just before we finish off, what we've basically done is in terms of files and batteries and things like that, because that's like a key logistic thing. So during the meal, when they were eating and we were sort of getting something to eat, and I'd typically do this at most weddings anyway, just to kind of get a head start on it. But I downloaded the footage that we'd captured up until then. So I've got the laptop with me and plug it in with either put the memory cards in or plug the cameras into it, and then download the footage and download the audio. So I'm just finishing now. Obviously, after the meal, we've captured the bit towards the end of the end of the day. So there's some more footage, a few more gigs of footage to download. So we're just doing that. Then we're just doing that here. So if you're watching, you can see this is kind of the setup. So you can see there, I've got the batteries, and the batteries there there's 10 chargers altogether for those types of batteries. So we can charge 10 batteries at a time, so we can just leave them overnight basically. So we're doing that, and that's how we'll have fresh batteries for each day, just by putting them in there. And that it's just handy to have them in that little box because it's easier to carry around. So that'll just be on the shelf at home when we're at home charging them, and then we bring it with us. And then on the laptop, we're just downloading the rest of the footage, and then that's going onto one drive. And then as soon as that's done, I'll put another drive in and then copy all the footage over to that once I've kind of checked through that it's copied all right. So that there's 2 copies of that, and then we can format the cards ready to be used tomorrow. So that's basically what we're doing now, and then that'll be bedtime. So yeah, we'll hopefully speak again tomorrow and let you know how it's going.
Okay, it's the end of wedding day number 2 in our roll of 4.
What did you say, roll of 4?
Roll of 4. I don't know. Maybe that's the delirium setting.
I was just going to say that because
after only 2 days.
Because you just called it a wending on the first take of starting to do this.
I did.
I guess if you needed to know how the brain's functioning right now, that's your insight.
There you go. Oh no, I'm only halfway. Yeah, so it's about 11:30 in the evening, end of day 2. We travelled this morning from Chorley over in the Cheshire area. No,
it's just call it the northwest.
Okay, the northwest, and we travelled to North Yorkshire, which
is in the middle of the north.
All northerly. Travelled to the Coniston Hotel today, which was it's our second wedding in the last couple of days, and also our second new venue. We hadn't been to that venue either previously, so that's nice. And I think you were just saying at the start of the day as well, weren't you? Out of the 4 that we have, 3 of them are completely new venues for us.
Yeah, so you know that in itself is it's mixed, isn't it? It's good. I think it's good from it's exciting to go to new venues that you haven't done before, and you don't go with any kind of preconceived ideas of what you're going to create or what you're going to do when you get there, or how it's going to go. And so it's quite exciting to explore and to kind of try and figure out things that you think will work, that'll be nice and and just get familiarise yourself with the new place. But then at the same time, it does make it a little less efficient.
Yeah.
Like you don't really know where anything is. Where, like for instance, we we did when we were doing the kind of, because we were doing photography and video today, so when we were doing the group shots, well, we decided would be a good place to do them, which was the best place to do them. We got told we weren't supposed to do them there by the venue. That's never happened to us before.
No.
But she didn't actually say you couldn't go there. She did encourage us to go to that place, but then just there was this weird kind of barrier thing. Well, I wouldn't call it a barrier, I'd call it a rope. And
Yeah. She came over quite panicked, didn't she, saying, "I'm not really supposed to take photographs on this bit."
But there was a big lake in the background. It was going to look good.
Yeah, so, but she was fine, wasn't she? And she just said, "That's fine. As soon as you've done this photograph, if you could come kind of back round a little bit."
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was funny. So, yeah, that's part of the sort of, I use the word challenges, but, very, kind of low level. Just somewhere that's unfamiliar, definitely has its pros and cons. So I started, just with really poor geography, explaining where we travelled to and from this morning. We left the hotel this morning around about 9 a.m.
Yeah, and it was absolutely chucking it down, wasn't it?
It was.
Luckily, by the end of the day, we had glorious sunshine.
Yeah. So that was nice. So, and it's nice to be back home this
Yeah,
evening.
we've just got back home, and feeling quite tired. We just finished downloading everything, and we've got all the batteries on charge. And so one of the things that we wanted to talk about that will be different today, because we're doing photography and video, and obviously for anybody who's doing photography, if you like to do a kind of sneak peek preview type thing for your couples that within the day after the wedding or within a couple of days of the wedding, you're going to want to get that sorted as soon as possible. Like, it's one of those things where if you don't get those photos to them as soon as possible, then they're just going to share a load of people's photos that they've taken on the phones. So like, you probably feel the same. You try to get it done as soon as possible and get them over to them. That's a bit of a challenge when you're doing so many on the bounce.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you just had one wedding and then you didn't have one the next day, you could spend a bit of time in the following morning doing it. We're not going to have time tomorrow morning. Probably won't have time at any point tomorrow to edit a few photos. So we're trying to do it now. So we've downloaded all the stuff, and before we back it up, we're just now kind of going through applying the preset to the photos, and then going to quickly pick a few out and quickly edit them to send across tomorrow morning first thing before we set off. So that's like worth talking about, because it's a practicality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your workflow, if you're doing 4 on the bounce, 3 on the bounce, 2 on the bounce, your workflow is going to have to adapt. And I mean, one of the things that we really wanted to try this year with video was to try and do a trailer, a little teaser thing within a day or two of the wedding as well. So, once we've got all the stuff downloaded, we wanted to be able to then put together like a 30-second, 1 minute, something that was great for social media and keeping the hype up and everything. Something to get the couple excited, and something also to, like, off the back of the wedding to show as soon as possible within like a day or two. And it just hasn't happened. We're in year 5. We've been doing this a while. We've got good workflows. We're very efficient. But I know some people manage to do that. I don't know if they've got a family. I don't know if they've got kids. I don't know if they're just, absolute beasts when it comes to work ethic. We've tried to do it this year, haven't we? And it's not really materialised. As soon as you get into the cycle of you've got stuff to edit, it feels wrong. You've got to do it for everybody. You can't just pick and choose when you're going to do a trailer just because it was a good wedding or whatever. So then you're kind of stuck in a rut of you either do them for every wedding and you're consistent with it, or you just don't, because otherwise some people are going to be posting trailers from weddings that you've just done, and people that are still waiting for their full thing haven't had a trailer, and be a mess, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought that was worth mentioning because we haven't managed to keep on top of that, have we?
Yeah, and at the start of the year, so with our first wedding that was in February, it's something that we'd done for the couple. We were able to share that with them, and it was it could be shown in the evening, couldn't it, on the projector?
Yeah, it was like a really mini same day edit.
Yeah, that was really well received, and that felt good to be able to do that and to be able to deliver that to them. So, you know, not writing it off completely, not saying that it's not possible, because if you have just one wedding, you know, that weekend, or certainly, you know, you're not going from one day after
the next,
day.
if you've got a gap.
To the next day, yeah. We have felt, you know, that's less possible, less achievable, really, realistically.
I think.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think this has got nothing to do with the 4 weddings in a row, but I think with that, it is just a case of we haven't got the volume situation right. We really tried this year, especially after last year of it being so crazy for the second half and so busy, and we wanted to get the volume right this year, but it again, because of we're still dealing with postponements. You know, 2 of these are postponements, these weddings that we're doing in this set of 4. So with the postponements and with kind of trying to recoup some of the, you know, dip from COVID, we're still trying to get to that point where we've got a happy balance of the numbers we're taking on. So maybe next year's the year where we get to do this proper. Maybe the back end of this year we get on top of it. Yeah. It'd be nice to be able to do that. But yeah, so before we kind of got to bed for tonight, because we're up again in the morning, what are you thinking? How are you feeling physically? I feel very tired now, like both physically and mentally, and it's only day 2.
Yeah. You know, you've done the driving as well on top, and that's, you know, the long journeys. Just taken, what was it? About an hour. It wasn't
that bad, to be fair. It really wasn't that far to come back from, but being away from home, the travel, you know, we've still done like a 12-13 hour wedding. And I think as well, so I want to mention about food and drink and refreshments, because I think we mentioned this before when we started recording this. You can have all the best intentions in the world, and we get supplied food at these weddings and everything, and we've got bottles of water in the car, and we're very prepared, really. We got some bananas last night, and you had like other snacks and stuff in the car. It's gone out the window. I didn't eat anything this morning, and then it was 5, 6 o'clock. Yeah. So nothing. I hadn't eaten anything till 5:30 in the evening. And there was a bit of a mix-up, like they didn't just bring some food out. We had to actually go and order something from the bar. So then there wasn't that much to choose from. And by the time it came, like, you know, we basically ordered like pizza and chips, and it was lovely, but it was really salty, and neither of us have drunk enough water. Have we?
We said to one another as soon as we came out from the speeches happening and kind of decanted and sat down to have a little bit of a break, both said, you know, we've got the paracetamol out, pounding heads, not drunk anywhere near enough today of the water. So it's just, you know, you'll sometimes have your satchel with you a lot more than I do. So my kit bag, we'll find a spot where we can leave, you know, tripods and bags and things like that. And I tend to end up always I'll leave my water in there. I don't often bring my bag with us when we're moving to and fro, so I can some days I can be really consciously sipping through the day because I know that I'll need it, and then other days I don't know where the time goes sometimes, and then before you know it, like you say, you've been up for, you know, 10-11 hours and you've been on your feet, and you've not eaten very much or drunk anything properly. So yeah, I definitely feel a lot more tired today, I think, which naturally would anyway, and it's quite late, but I just think extra dose of dehydration, I think, today. A bit of a good sort of shout to, well, like we were working with James
yesterday, different photographer, and he was saying he brings a lot of his own food because he's vegan, and it's a bit hit and miss what he gets sort of offered. And he said he brings his own food because, you know, he doesn't know if he's going to get to eat or what he's going to get to eat. Sort of a good shout in a way, isn't it? You know, we have like Huel at home, and it might be worth just packing some Huel and stuff and just not eating, you know, random stuff especially when you've got like multiple days, because you just need to be in a bit more control of of what you're putting in your body, so that you keep yourself hydrated and fueled properly. But yeah, other than that, I'm looking forward to my bed, and I think we're looking forward to tomorrow. It should be a really good wedding.
Yeah, and today's was good fun.
Yeah, today was people that we used to work with when we were in the police, and so we know them. They're good fun. We did their mum's wedding. So there was people we knew there, and we got a cracking sunset as well. So
yeah, nice day.
Yeah. So we'll hopefully we'll record another bit tomorrow. It might be from like bed when we're just like, but we'll see. We'll see how we go. Yeah.
Good night.
Right, so we're at the end of the spell. We'll call it a spell. A spell. We're at the end of the 4-day stretch.
The run of 4.
The run of 4.
Yeah.
We ended up not recording additional little bits after day 3 and 4. Hands up, we just didn't feel like we had the energy or the time to do it. We were getting back quite late from those weddings. I think like the day 3 was probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock. It wasn't too late, and then it was about 11 o'clock, and then day 4 it was after 11, about 11:30. But by then I think we had got to a tired place, hadn't we?
Yeah, the fatigue had definitely sort of set in, and I think the priority after Saturday now was making sure that
ready
things
for Sunday
were downloaded, and just preparing for Sunday, for the last one.
Yeah. So we're recording it after we've finished, feeling quite tired after the 4 days. So we thought we'd just sort of do a little bit of a summary. The day 3 wedding was lovely, great venue, wasn't it? Lovely day. It was mixing that I don't think the groom wasn't as into having photo video captured as a lot of people are. So there was a bit of a challenge there, but I think for us we're kind of used to that these days, aren't we? We sense the tone, we read the room, don't we? And we just sort of react to it. We don't try and get something that's not there.
Anything. Yeah.
Because we do, that's the whole point in what we're saying. It's very supposed to be very natural. It's supposed to make you feel comfortable. So the last thing we want to do is be encouraging people to do stuff they don't really want to do. So the video is what it is.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, and that's anybody's wedding day, really. So that was day 3, but it was a lovely day, and they were the bride especially was lovely, wasn't she?
Yeah. Really nice. And that venue, that was the only one out of the whole weekend, the whole stretch of 4, wasn't it? That's the one that we've worked before, yeah.
Yeah, so we know the staff, and we recommended there, and it's always lovely going back. And then the 4th one I did by myself. Again, that was just like a really nice day. It's actually somebody I went to school with, so it was pleasant catching up with them. I haven't seen them literally since high school. I've probably bumped into them on a night out from time to time when we were younger, but I don't remember having a conversation with them since we were at school. So it was lovely, wasn't it? Oh, you weren't even there. I don't know why I'm asking you. It was at a really nice venue called Middleton Lodge, which is up in the north of England, and again, like mixed weather conditions, so but got some lovely stuff, and that, everything went okay. So I wanted to mention a couple of issues, because there was a couple of issues with the cameras over the weekend, and this is probably worth mentioning just because you will at time to time bump into little problems that happen on wedding days, and obviously the best thing to do is to try and react to it in a really laid back and kind of just get the job done as best you can. But I think it was what I sort of think, oh well, 4 days in a row, heavy use of the cameras. You sort of like start thinking, is it cause the cameras are getting pounded or whatever? I don't know. And one day, it was when we were doing photography and video on the second day, and the bride was coming down the aisle, and the camera just that I was taking photos with just froze. It was a Sony A1. You know, you can't really get much better in terms of like spending money on equipment. You can't really buy a much better camera to kind of do stuff, and it just froze. And it hasn't happened to me before. It's the first time it's ever happened, and it happened literally just as I was firing off photos as she's coming down the aisle. No great shakes. I don't think anything. I've got what we need. Was videoing it as well, so I'm not going to worry about that. But it's just unfortunate. And then on the fourth day, had like with the same camera, had a very random overheating situation.
Right.
Where the overheat light came on at about 25 minutes into the speeches.
Right.
And it was recording exactly the same way we would normally record speeches. And we'd done speeches over the weekend. I'm trying to think which wedding now, but there was certainly one wedding where the speeches went on well over an hour. And we were recording with that camera and it didn't overheat.
Right.
So I think maybe sometimes like I'd been using it to capture some of the drinks reception, and I've been using it on a higher frame rate to get some slow-mo stuff, and that does generate a bit more heat. But I'd purposefully kind of left it. I'd gone and changed cameras, changed the lens on it, and I'd sat it down and rested it before the speeches started. So I was surprised. It was quite warm in the room, but it's nothing crazy.
Sort of hot day, was it?
No, I think there was some underfloor heating in the venue that was turned on. That did make it feel quite warm in there, but not to the extent you would expect the camera to be overheating after 25 minutes. It didn't actually shut off. The warning light came on, so I stopped the recording because I had another camera running, and I just changed the settings so that rather than recording like a higher codec, I just changed it to an 8-bit one. Anyway, it's fine. I got through the speeches, but it's just worth mentioning. Like, you know, we've invested in equipment to make everything efficient and work well, and that obviously was a bit of a hiccup.
Yeah.
So
I suppose a concern if obviously there was two of us. So thinking about the film and photo, you were covering at the front, weren't you? And I was at the back. So a concern really for any sort of solo shooters that might be doing one or both, film or photo. And if you were to have your primary camera, you know, right at the moment that one party's turned to see the other coming up the aisle to them, then that's that's it, isn't it? But again, it'll be fine. It'll work out when we edit it together and everything. But not ideal. So, how are we feeling? How are you feeling mentally, physically? Yeah, mixture. I think certainly on the lead up to it, I was looking forward to it. But at the same time, I think because of the kind of logistics, being away from home so much, the kids, I was sort of thinking, what we're doing, you know, this is just, we said we did a 3-day, I think last year. What have we done here? You know, this is kind of going to be too much. And certainly on day 3, I know that I didn't drink enough water through the day. Yeah. And then we didn't get fed till later on. The speeches were kind of interspersed, throughout the
love
the
it when
meal.
that happens.
And it's only recently that we've moved to kind of putting a question into the questionnaires for the clients that ask whether or not we'd be provided with a meal.
Yeah.
We don't put it in our contract. I know some prefer to do that. We wouldn't. I don't think we'd ever get to a place where we put it in the contract. I'm not sure because I don't know. I'm not so comfortable with that. I think something about.
I think they're paying us enough money. I think they're paying us enough money. Yeah. I'm happy to pay for my own food or bring my own food, but if they want to provide you with a meal,
then that's terrific, isn't it?
And there's nowhere else to get one from because you're in the middle of nowhere, which we are a lot of the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So for me, it's just knowing in advance and just knowing that you can get something to eat, because it's, you know, from the point that we'd set off to the point where we actually got something to eat, and there wouldn't have been the opportunity to slip off and get something from somewhere terribly nearby because of how the kind of the speeches had gone. But
it was over 10 hours.
It was 10, 11 hours. So that's, you know, for me, I suffered after that. I was ready for. I'd have really struggled if I had to have come on Sunday as well.
Yeah, and there weren't the breaks built into that day. Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, kind of looking back on it, you know, the next day, if you like, I kind of think, in a lot of ways, you get into a bit of a flow with it.
Yeah.
And the little charging box that you've set up, the card reads that you've got, and things like that, actually charging, downloading on the road wasn't such a bad thing, because because it's such a priority to make sure that it's done correctly and at the earliest sort of opportunity. You know, there's nothing lost there.
No.
The equipment that's used, the MacBooks that are used, you know, they're no different to what you use when you do it at home. You know, it's still, the technology's there is sufficient enough to be able to do it. So I think, you know, there's no worry as such that there'd be anything lost. So
I think the more you do something, if you're doing something in quite an this is how it's always been for me. Whatever I've been doing, I'm better at being efficient and being detailed at doing something when I've got that kind of pressure. If I've got all the time in the world, I'll still be late. If I know I've got to run it to a tight schedule, everything will be done very, you know, efficiently.
Yeah.
That's just how I work. Everybody's different. Some people wouldn't, I don't think, be able to manage those.
Yeah.
You know, I felt okay. It's now, it's today. Now I've stopped, you know, now I've come down, if you like, off the got to do this, got to keep going. Physically, I could feel some aches and pains starting to set in. I've always had a bit of a dodgy back, and that's been a lot better for the last year or two, but I could feel my back aching a little bit. Could feel my legs aching from being stood up all day, my feet hurting. So 4's probably a bit too much, but at the same time, you know, and I was okay kind of mentally until today, you know, just coming down. Now I feel like a zombie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because we used to work in the police, and a lot of people don't really realise how it is in the police or in other emergency services, but what's expected of you basically is that you stay until the job's done. So because we've had that experience in the past, I don't think this sort of thing really bothers us too much. It could bother somebody who hasn't had that experience and who doesn't have that you know, previous knowledge and how you can get through these things to draw on. You know, I know when you were in CID and you were a detective on cases that needed people they needed to keep people in, you know, they needed to go straight to prison basically. They couldn't let them back out, and it was Lindsay's responsibility to make sure that happened. You stayed in work for like more than 24 hours sometimes. I mean, you'd do a 20-something hour shift, come home, have 2 hours sleep, and you'd be back in the next morning to go to court and make a case at court. So, you know, you did that, and then there's plenty of times where a murder or something serious has happened, and I've been on shift and I've not been able to leave until like everything's squared away and sorted out. So yeah, that helps, not having that experience.
Yeah. But I think as well that there'll be people also that have, you know, health conditions that they'll need to consider. So
yeah,
the lack of fluid and eating and things like that. You know, diabetic comes straight to mind. You know, that could really. You've
really got to be careful, and you've got to take all that into consideration. I wouldn't if we weren't in good health, if we had a health condition or we weren't, you know, 100% healthy, I wouldn't do more than 1 or 2 in a day, you know, 2 in a row. No way. So yeah, that's kind of that. The flip side of it to talk about just very briefly is, editing. So it's all good and well doing 4 in a row, but we've just picked up 4 lots of edits in the space of, less than a week. So if you do 1 a week and you pick up 1 edit, you can probably get that edit turned around in that same week. You pick up 4, you've got no chance. So if you're regularly doing more than 1 on the bounce, if you're doing 2s and 3s and 4s, you're just going to end up with a massive backlog. So thankfully our schedule now is not like that. We don't have any more. We've got for the next few months, most of the weddings are just single ones, and there aren't ones every week. So we will catch up, or that's the plan. But we wouldn't if we kept doing 2 or 3 on the bounce, and you've really got to think about that.
Because of those 4, the very first one ended up being quite a last minute booking, didn't it? And so when we were considering taking it, the decision was a bit, I don't know, but because we benefit with weddings from all of us understanding that they're future events, so we could see what gaps there were, what kind of now certainly there won't be another period that's that intense for the rest of the year, but certainly in the forthcoming weeks we know that we're going to be able to, it'll be hard work, and we can't I don't think we can afford to kind of put his feet up for the next week. We need to
keep going with the edits from weeks ago, because that's where the editing queue is now. It's I think it's probably heading towards 10. It's somewhere 8 or 10. I don't even know the figures without looking. It's a bit tired today. So yeah, we've got a wedding coming up next Sunday. That's just me. Got other projects. So this morning we were scouting out for a commercial photo shoot that we're doing next week. We just went to check out the venue, the location that is. We've been invoicing clients for commercial work that we've done in the last few weeks, and scheduling in dates for upcoming commercial jobs. We've been communicating with wedding clients that have got weddings coming up in the next couple of months, so that we're making sure we're getting the information, questionnaires sent out, and arranging video calls and stuff with them. It's our daughter's birthday this weekend coming up, so that's a significant personal event that we want to be around for. Thankfully, we've blocked that out, so we don't have a wedding. I have a wedding on the Sunday, but on the Saturday when it's a birthday and Friday when it's a party, we don't. And all this kind of carries on. It's stuff that doesn't always get taken into consideration, because when we're working out what we can do, how many weddings we can take on, we're thinking about the days of shooting, and we're not always thinking about all the extra bits that I've just sort of mentioned and all the editing. And fortunately, there's 2 of us, so we can share that workload a little bit, but it's still quite intense. And to some extent, we've got to do twice as much, because we've got to bring in enough revenue to support both of us and the family. So we did some previous podcasts where we talked about goal setting, and we talked about workload planning and revenue goals. That was episodes 15 and 16. So check those out if this sort of thing is being an issue for you. Like how many weddings you take on, when you're going to do them, etc., etc. It's worth having a listen to those. We've done those podcasts. We've still not managed to get that perfect balance. We're still working on it. So yeah, right. That's it for this week's episode. Hopefully it's been a little bit different, a little bit interesting for you, and you got something out of listening to that experience. Whether you'll do it again, I don't know if we'll do it again. We probably will, because we're stupid. And you can take your own kind of conclusions away from that. Podcast is sponsored by Divine Studios, as usual. So if you need a website or any design stuff, check them out. And we will see you in another episode next week.